Hello everyone, and welcome back to the old series of 50 bad habits most artists pick up during their art journey and how to fix them. Now I'm going back to this series because it's the most important series I'm working on, and I have to come back to this to hopefully finish it in time. So I'm gonna add the missing part that wasn't there before, which is the voiceover. I want the series to be perfect. It's really important to know not only the techniques, how to draw something, but the mindset behind the daily habits you do while drawing and painting. So that's why I started this series. This series is 50 bad habits we don't realize we are doing until it's either too late or it's already holding us back from doing our best in our daily practice. So I'm gonna start with the bad habits and techniques. There are gonna be 5 chapters, and each chapter will have 10 bad habits. So we're gonna start with the bad habits and techniques. So let's do an introduction to the first section. The bad habits and techniques. What are they? The bad habits and techniques are going to be the most obvious of all bad habits. They will be the first bad habits you pick up and the last to get rid of. The majority of them are done by beginners artists, but some of them will linger even past the beginner level. Personally, I still struggle with some of them from time to time. They are the comfort zone that you go to when your mind is on autopilot while painting. The side effect of this bad habit is that they will weaken your painting skills and make your work look a bit amateurish or childish. They will also hinder your progress and stop you from going to the next level if you couldn't get rid of them. The severity level is high. They will be slowing your progress and keeping you from reaching the advanced level of your skills. As for how to get rid of them, is constant, focused practice. You need to identify which of these bad habits you are doing. Pay close attention to it and practice on weaning yourself off that bad habit so it's no longer reside in your autopilot behavior or your subconscious. The first bad habit is the chicken strokes or the unconfident strokes in outline, in hatching, and in painting. So let's identify the bad habit in outline first. When it comes to outline, the chicken strokes, or what the artists call the nervous stroke, is the trademark of the beginner artist drawing. I call it chicken strokes because my teacher back in school used to call my handwriting chicken strokes due to the old shaky lines in it. It originates from being unconfident of where your next line will be. Pro artists know 2 or 3 strokes ahead, like playing chess. So they draw the lines mentally first before finally putting them on paper. Beginner artists see the line first, then decide where to go as they draw the line, which will result in shaky, broken, and unattractive look to your outlines. As for identifying the bad habit in hatching and shading, when it comes to hatching or shading, like in case of drawing the hair, for example, it may have a different reason for the shaky strokes. Beginner artists focus mainly on the facial features. They take their time drawing it carefully, but since they don't have the patience for long drawing sessions yet, they won't spend a long time shading the hair. They either get bored of the drawing or get overwhelmed by the amount of details in the hair. So they end up shading it hair by hair in the nightmarish kind of way. As for identifying this bad habit in painting, the nervous tick can also bleed into your painting techniques. Confusion about the values, the colors, or the textures may lead to spotty, harsh, or unattractive overall look to your painting. Now that we identified the bad habit, now let's talk about curing it. So curing the bad habit in outline. To get rid of this bad habit while sketching, you need to practice lines in every shape and style. Fill up 5 to 10 sheets every day before you even start drawing. Draw lines in different lengths, focusing on the drawing it mentally first, then on paper with one confident stroke. Draw ellipses, triangles, and squares in the same way. Draw peanut shapes, cubes, cones, pyramids, all with one stroke per side. Once you practice the dynamic sketching long enough, you can go on to more complicated shapes like trees, cars, and finally characters and portraits. You will notice after a while that your lines are getting stronger and stronger and more confident, and you will shake away this bad habit for good. As for getting rid of this bad habit in hatching and shading, you will need more patience, something I will cover later in the method section. Patience will come with practice. Always remember that patience will come with practice. For now, if you finish the facial features and got tired or bored, step away from the drawing. Leave it for a while, and when you are ready to draw again with passion, start with shading the hair with a whole new energy. More about this in the method section. You can also practice doing hair shading only sheets, so you won't be distracted by the facial features. So fill up sheets drawing the hair only. It will also teach you to be patient with your drawings. To get rid of this habit while painting, you need to slow down significantly while doing it. Watching speed painting for too long will mess up with your perception of time. Real-time painting is much longer than what you are seeing in these videos. For example, my 30-minute video of the White Serenity still life is actually 20 hours plus in real time. So slowing down your strokes will significantly result in calmer, smoother, and better looking paintings. But be careful not to over smooth your painting. That's a bad habit 99% of beginner artists will fall into, which I will cover in the next section. Try to finish one drawing in a 10-minute continuous session. Repeat that 10 times. If you manage to get through it, go up a step, till you can sit down and draw for hours, without being distracted, annoyed, or bored. The nervous strokes is something I'm still fighting with, to this day, as I mentioned before in the last figure drawing session. It happens when I phase out and go to the autopilot or the comfort zone. It creeps up on me from time to time. So remember, this one will take a while to get rid of, especially if you had been doing it for a couple of years. So be patient with yourself. Bad habit number 2. Over smoothing. Plastic texture. Identifying the bad habit. If nervous strokes were the trademark of the beginner artist drawing, over smoothing is the trademark of the beginner artist painting. I see over smoothing as a sign of fear of the hard edges. When you first start drawing, you may think hard edges are wrong, or it's unnatural, or it's an outline that you should get rid of. So you start smoothing your painting to a degree that is beyond realistic shading, all the way to a blurry, edgeless, unfocused painting. Hard edges are not the enemy, remember that. Hard edges are what defines your object. Smooth areas have to be locked in between hard edges. Otherwise, it will look like you just blurred the whole painting. If you watch pro artists, you will notice that every smooth edge that they paint starts as a hard edge, and it tapers off toward the smooth edge. This will make your painting realistic, solid, and very enjoyable to look at. The reason behind this bad habit is again confidence. As a beginner artist, you will feel unsure of the hard edge start. Or maybe a teacher have told you at one point there is no hard edges in nature. For example, that sentence alone is what triggered the over-smoothing habit in me for over 3 years. The teacher should have said there are no outline in nature, but there are hard edges. Hard edges are part of nature, and it's everywhere. You don't have to outline it to make it hard edge, by the way. You just need to make it sharp and less smooth than the rest. As for curing the bad habit, to get rid of this over-smoothing, you need to practice. You are going to hear this a lot in this series. This time you need to practice basic shapes. Fill 5 to 10 sheets of basic hard edges shapes like cubes, pyramids, cylinder, and so on, focusing on the hard edge line between the sides of the shape. For example, if you over-smooth a cube, you will end up with a sphere. When you feel confident enough, go up a step and start filling sheets of mechanical objects or parts, gears, hexes, jams, screws, and so on. And finally, you can draw complete objects, either mechanical like cars or organic like portraits. Remember, turning planes, meeting point between two shapes, start of a cast shadow are some of the many reasons that creates hard edges. Over-smoothing is something I got rid of recently, not that long ago. I used to fall into the same trap. My painting looked very blurry and I couldn't understand why. When I compared them to the pro artist work, it was very obvious that something was wrong. It was simply over-smoothing. Bad habit number 3. No mirroring, no zooming. Checking your work with fresh new eyes. This bad habit is kind of reversed. It's not something you do, it's something you don't do. So this is going to be something you need to get used to do a lot. When you work on a piece for a long time, without mirroring the canvas or zooming out, you will be looking at the same part from the same side and for a long time. This will result in your brain getting used to the painting and fixing the errors for you in your mind and not on the canvas. Our brains have the capability to redefine reality for us, to make it fit what we already know and observed before. Human brains also have what the scientists call the left gaze bias, which means our brains gather information from looking at the right side of the object first, then it goes to the other side, scanning the subject from one side to the other. This will lead into a unique perception of what we see, how we see it, and when we see it. So when you look at your work from one side, one angle, and one distance, your mind already got all the information it needs to identify your subject that you are drawing. So any minor mistake in perspective, anatomy, or texture will be fixed by your brain or overlooked completely. Thus, the need to zooming out and flipping the canvas to fool your mind into believing that this is a different subject that needs to be rescanned and re-identified all over again, which will result in seeing all the minor mistakes that you thought it didn't exist before. That's why when you flip your canvas, you are going to feel a bit of confusion and discomfort that your painting is messed up, and you're gonna see that many mistakes will pop out that it won't even feel like the subject you are drawing anymore. This is a good sign. It means that your brain finally stopped fixing your subject for you, and it's showing you the real painting that you did and that the others are seeing. Now you can fix the mistake not just in your mind, but also on the canvas. Flipping your canvas horizontally will make you see your painting differently, but you may still overlook some tiny details that didn't change after the flip, like the symmetrical objects. But if you flip your canvas horizontally, then vertically, your mind will totally tap out, saying you're on your own body, leaving you alone to fix this new unidentified object all the way to the molecular level. Zooming out, on the other hand, won't just give you a fresh set of eyes to look at your painting, but it will also give you an overall look at your painting. This is very important to check the patterns, the values, and the perspective of your painting. You will be able to check if your lighting is correct as well. Zooming out will definitely break your urge to concentrate on a small part of your painting at a time. You may have worked on an area for hours using the wrong light direction or wrong perspective. Zooming out will make sure that your work will be consistent all over your painting. The cure is not to get rid of this bad habit, but getting used to a good habit. This one is pure practice. It's something I'm still struggling with till this day. You can help yourself by leaving notes on your screen like I did, saying don't forget to flip your canvas or zoom out. Or put a reminder on your phone to tell you to do these things every 30 minutes or an hour. This good habit is essential to push your work to the next level and checking your own work with fresh new eyes. Keep practicing it till it becomes an instinct that you use as a part of your daily painting routine. Bad habit number 4. Overusing special effects, the filters, actions, brushes, plugins, or softwares. This bad habit will be an early frustration in your journey as an artist. It's mainly related to when you start digital painting for the first time. You might get overwhelmed by all the beautiful work done by pro artists and wanting to imitate the same level of quality without being on the same level of experience as they are. So you might think there's probably some special effects that they are using or some secret, the holy grail of brush that they invented or so on. That's why most of the beginners ask pro artists after seeing their amazing painting is always the same question. What brush are you using? Or in case of a traditional one, what paper or pen or paint are you using? This comes from the belief that the final product isn't painted, but it's auto-produced by the software, which is not entirely true. A painting is the result of hours and hours of manual painting and hundreds of layers done to perfection, and only a thin layer of special effect is added on top of the stack. Most pro artists will tell you that they would get the same result with using the default round brush only. The filters, brushes, or plugins in many cases will make your painting worse, especially if you don't know what you're looking for in an effect. Otherwise, you can actually make your painting look much worse. Pro artists create their own brushes mainly for convenience and time saving. If they need to draw 100 bullets in less than 5 minutes, they will probably create a bullet brush and get it done right away. Then they will add the values, the colors on top of it, but that isn't done for special effect, more for time saving. Beginner artists will try to imitate the same effect but for the crucial part of the painting, like using a complicated brush for the eyes or the hair, making it look overly detailed or complicated when it can be done much faster and easier and even prettier with a simple round brush. You need to understand and believe that paintings do not look good due to the materials used or special effect brushes, or even the software capabilities. It's mostly talent, hard work, and lots of practice. Just remember, Leonardo da Vinci did not have Photoshop. As for curing the bad habit, this might be very simple. Stop it. Simply stop using any filter or special effect when you are starting out. When I first started digital painting, I had to stop myself from researching brushes for hours and downloading over 1 gigabyte of brushes that I didn't even use till this day. Limit yourself to 2 or 3 brushes to work with. Soft brush for blending, hard brush for edges, and a rough brush for textures. That's all what you need. Once your painting is more and more sophisticated and complicated, you will then have the ability to have your own brushes library by creating a new brush for every new painting you do along the way. Remember this, you need to be able to create a good painting with only 1 or 2 brushes. Nothing will turn a bad painting, bad perspective, bad anatomy, bad composition, so on, into a good one with a magical brush. By the way, don't be surprised if pro artists got frustrated with you if you ask them about their brushes. They get asked about the brushes constantly and they all say the same thing. I'm using a default brush. Or they're gonna say they don't matter in creating this painting. Bad habit number 5. No light source. Frontal lighting, no main light source, no secondary lighting, the wrong values. Identifying the bad habit. This one is related mostly to lack of knowledge or an existing experience. When you take a picture with a digital camera or your smartphone, your photos will all look the same. They will either be lit up by your camera flashlight, giving your photos a frontal lighting, or without a flashlight, giving your photos a bland ambient lighting. This sense of lighting will be embedded in your brain when you start painting. You will automatically start lighting all your painting with either frontal flashlight lighting or lighting everything up at the same intensity and direction. This kind of lighting has no dimension or depth. For example, if you are trying to paint something in nature, the sun never lights object from the front side. The sun is always high up and always give you a diagonal or vertical lighting effect, unless it's a sunset or sunrise. So lighting things up that way will be unnatural and very amateurish in the eyes of the viewer. Exposure to different light sources and direction like side lighting, Rembrandt lighting, rim lighting, ambient lighting, soft lighting, hard lighting, spot lighting, artificial lighting, double-sided lighting, and so on will give your painting diversity, richness, and much more feeling and emotion to it. For example, lighting your subject from the bottom will give it an evil and sinister look, while lighting it from above will give it a good and angelic look. Many artists struggle with this bad habit. Even advanced artists will be stuck in one or two lighting scenarios. Lots of hard work is needed to break this habit, but once you do, your work will rise up to a much higher level and people will have a whole new respect and appreciation for your work. Remember that in nature light bounces between objects, so there is never one direction of light that affects your subject. Light bouncing from a glass or a smooth table will not only carry the values to your object but also its color. Using secondary bounced light in your painting will give it an extra dimension, turning it from a 2D painting to a 3D painting. As for curing this habit, yep, you guessed it, practice. But don't just paint anything, do value exercises. Try doing the whole sheet painting the same object with different light sources. Stick to the values at first. Paint a portrait lit from above or below, left or right. Take pictures of building or scene in different lighting situation, in a sunny day, a cloudy day, or late at night. Then try to paint them. Keep the subject constant and change the light source and type. This way you will have a clear comparison to the difference between the lighting situations. If you feel confident enough, introduce colors to the equation. Do a seasonal sheet. Paint a house in summer, winter, fall, and spring. Or if you are crazy enough, go sci-fi with it. Paint the same house in a planet with two suns, for example, a red sun and a blue sun. Or a planet on fire, or an icy planet, or a planet with magical lit mushrooms, whatever you think of. Just try to make it interesting, and use more than one light source for your painting. Be creative with your exercise and have fun while doing it. In the same time, you will see how much your work improves when you break the chains of this bad habit. This is the first part of the top 10 bad habits and techniques. We talked about 5 bad habits, and we're gonna talk about the other 5 in the next video. These are the next 5 we're gonna talk about in the next video. As for now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.